Good space time, y'all. In this episode of the Citizen Cosmos podcast, I speak with Jonathan Caras, currently working on Levana, a collateralized trading platform. We discussed inflation, stablecoins, NFTs and gaming, collapse of empires, and the history of the shekel. We also talked about dragons and Mars, the life cycle of living organisms, and trust in money.
I worked for a company that built a fashion app called Screenshop for the Kardashians. It's verifiable. You can store it in your head. It's non-seizable by the government. It allows for arbitrage of electricity. It crosses borders. Doe thought of it like a year before me.
He was the better magician. He made it all disappear.
The hyperinflation is like it's a giant theft. It's where the government essentially just steals money from the people. When I look out my window, I see the remains of multiple fallen empires that lasted much longer and had much more influence than the United States. When you can control how labor happens and what the compensation of labor is, that is mass slavery.
Before we rock it off into today's podcast, here's a roundup of the latest news from the sponsor of this episode, Cyber. The Cyber Congress DAO has been primarily working on improving the Bostrom hub. This work includes testing of the contracts, new UI features, verification tools for on-chain governance, and polishing the Bostrom DEX, adding MEF protection, new web front, and bringing indexing of chain swaps. To try Bostrom, head now to oversib.ai. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Cosmos podcast. I have with me today Jonathan Caras, Head of Communications at Levana. Jonathan, hi. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, very glad. We met, if I'm not mistaken, I hope my memory hasn't died completely yet in this bear market, but we met in Atom Lisboa. And it was fascinating. How was it for you, by the way, Atom Lisboa?
It was great. First of all, I think Portugal is my favorite destination. It's just the weather, the people, just everything about it, the culture, and then the fact that it's such a crypto hub. So I'll take any excuse to go to Lisboa and to get to talk to people from the Cosmos community is also particularly valuable because I think Cosmos in general is confusing to many people in crypto. They don't get it. The idea of self-sovereign chains that all kind of share as part of a larger mesh is just such an obscure concept that, if you come from the world of Solana, or like I went to the Solana event, you come to from any of these worlds, you're just like, I don't get it. Are you an app? Are you a layer one? Are you like, how does all of this work? And what am I supposed to do? And like, where's my USDC? And what is XLR? And, I have to deposit into the Osmosis AMM. Like there's so many paradigms that you take advantage of, or that are just a given when you come from the world of Ethereum DeFi that have been mimicked in every other ecosystem. And what I love about Cosmos is that we're constantly trying to say, could it be done differently and could it be done better?
I finally understood why the design happened. It was just when you go to conferences and people ask you what you are, just to say, I'm an L1, I'm in Cosmos, damn, you don't need to explain it. Finally, no, I'm joking. That would be a good reason to do it, right? I was actually at Breakpoint, not at the event itself. We did record with a few guys and I did meet a few guys outside. I didn't go in, but I must say, we are decentralization kind of maximalists, and we support not just Cosmos, Ethereum too, and projects from other ecosystems as well. We talk to, and we're out there. But it felt different. It felt like the people was a different atmosphere, different. I don't know. The whole thing feels very different. But happy to hear about Portugal. Of course, living partially in Portugal, so I'm happy and glad. You should come visit Madeira. It's a beautiful place.
I will. I'll take you up on that. You have a comfortable couch I can crash on?
Yes. Well, a couch, yes and no. I have a floor, a lot of space. I'm one of those like minimalist people. So, but we have a lot of space.
I'll bring a sleeping bag.
I have an airbed, so I can. Jonathan, would you care to please to talk a little bit about yourself? What do you do? Of course, the typical question, how did you get pilled by blockchain? And a little bit about Levana as well, maybe.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's do it. I was born, David Copperfield. I'm about to turn 40, and which is a big number. It feels a lot older than I feel. But I've been building software since I was 9 years old. I was writing BASIC on a 286, no, probably a 386, like a QBasic and a TI-82 calculator. I knew I was going to be a game developer since I was probably 10. And, my mom sent me to like summer camps and stuff for web design and things like that in the early 90s. And then I moved to Israel after high school. I went to Jewish seminary to learn to be a rabbi. I didn't become a rabbi. I was passionate about technology. And I started my first company I went to, formally trained as a computer engineer. I'm also, I was a professional magician in high school, and I did a lot of theater, but like performance arts. And I built a software house focused on mobile software development in 2008. I had early access to the iPhone SDK from 2007 from relationships that I had with Apple. And I built out a team. We were about a dozen engineers, and we would do soup to nuts app development before app development was cool. And we did a lot of like B2B and like early childhood education apps, about 60 apps in total from 2008 until 2012. 2012, I patented a video streaming protocol, which had optimized NAT traversal for 3G networks. I created a video streaming company called Glide Video Messaging. We took off in about 2014. We got about 26 million subscribers. I sold my portion of it in 2015. I did a Kickstarter for a camera, a wearable camera on your wrist. Did pretty well with that. And then I worked for a company that built a fashion app called Screenshot for the Kardashians. So I worked with Kim, and we designed a product that got a couple million users. It used AI to turn your Instagram feed into a shopping cart. And then we were acquired in 2018 by Snapchat. And during that time period, and Kim was actually a pleasure to work with. I met Kanye once. He didn't say anything, but he seemed like a nice guy. So I was first introduced to Bitcoin in 2011. I helped one of my college mates set up a GPU mining rig, like at the very end of GPU mining. And I threw away like a Coinbase of Bitcoin. So like, I don't know whether it was 25 or whether it was 50 it was either one or two, but it was valueless at the time. At least I thought it was. And then I had never read the white paper. I just was interested in the application really around BitTorrent because I was really excited for reputation management. And I thought that Bitcoin kind of combined with BitTorrent in order to create reputation management that was decentralized through how many tokens that you had so that you would know how to prioritize between seeders and leechers. And then I was reintroduced to the white paper in 2016. And, my father is a libertarian, and I was actually researching online, like to buy gold, and that's how I stumbled upon the Bitcoin white paper. And then I just fell down the rabbit hole, and I was like, this is so much better than gold from all of the attributes, like instantly, it's verifiable. You can store it in your head. It's non-seizable by the government. It allows for arbitrage of electricity. It crosses borders. It can be used by anybody with a cell phone. It just did everything that I wanted gold to do, but better. And so I just fell in love with it. And I actually sent half a Bitcoin to one of the investors in my streaming video company and said, like, you should just check this out. I think Bitcoin was trading around $900 at the time. And, we just kind of fell down the rabbit hole together, and he ended up creating a fund. He put together like just a small fund, like 50K. Then I just kept getting pinged about research about different ICOs that were happening. And so I started falling down the rabbit hole. That made me very anti-Ethereum because I was like, none of these projects make any sense. None of them have any economic viability. I don't need hamster coin in order to buy your hamster, or lemonade coin to buy your lemonade, or dentist coin or vegan coin or any of these. Like, what the heck are people doing here? Like, that's not how money works. And so I spent a lot of time from the first bull run, like as a Bitcoin maximalist. And so then we had a fund together, and so I was like head of research of this fund, Lionstein Capital. And I fell in love with MakerDAO because I recognized that we needed stablecoins and we needed decentralized stablecoins. Then when MakerDAO switched to the MakerDAO Foundation, and then when they came out with multi-collateral DAI, I was just kind of like done with the project. I was like, whatever. And I actually went out to breakfast with Eyal Herzog from Bancor, like before he launched Bancor. And he explained to me how the AMM worked and like how it solved the liquidity problem and simplified market making. And I was like, this is amazing. Why do you need your own token? What are you doing with your own token for this? Just launch the product. And so then, I saw like when he was forked by Uniswap, with Hayden. And then that kind of opened up my eyes to what could be done with viable economic principles through smart contract platforms. And then I fell in love with Ethereum. So I realized it wasn't really Ethereum that I hated. It was really just all of the whole ICO bubble. Then I met Vitalik and the Starkware team that Eli Ben-Sasson, who created Zcash and the father of zero knowledge proofs, at the Scaling Bitcoin conference in Tel Aviv University in 2018, I think. And then, I ended up just falling in love with zero knowledge proofs. And all the while I was, anytime that a new stablecoin came out, I tried to like get in on that project. So like Ampleforth and Olympus, ESD, and all these things. But none of them worked. I was really into Haven also. I don't know if you know Haven. It was merge mined with Monero, and it was a 2-coin system where there was a stable coin and a speculative coin, and it used a seigniorage based minting and burning. So I saw that and I thought like, wow, wouldn't this be awesome if you could build smart contracts on top of this? Because who's got time to merge my Monero? And so I thought like, okay, the best way to do it would be to take Haven, just rebuild it on Cosmos, and then be able to build apps on top of it. And, and then that's what made me fall down the rabbit hole of Terra, because that was basically the same idea. So I thought I was the first one that thought of it, but no, Doe thought of it like a year before me.
He was the better magician. He made it all disappear. I'm joking. Go on, please. Sorry.
Sure. And so I worked for Starkware for about 2 years. I led business development there. We had 2 major projects that we brought on for StarkX, which was the single sequencer, single operator, zero knowledge proof system. So they've matured now to StarkNet, which is much more decentralized. And that was Immutable X, which produced NFTs on layer 2 for Gods Unchained, and then now is a platform, with Immutable X, and then DYDX. So with both of these projects, I really got to see like I hung out with the head engineer at Immutable. I was big into NFTs at the time. I remember like when the first punks were minted, and then when the 721 was standardized, I did a whole masterclass at Starkware, like walking them through how NFTs work and going through the mint process. I flew out to Berlin to meet, some of the teams that were making, like I met the Rarible team, and I flew out to New York to meet Devin at OpenSea. So it was like really exciting to kind of see this concept of digital assets in the lifestyle and brand space really come to life. And then, I did a lot of technical sales for Immutable to explain how zero knowledge proof works. So I got to work with a bunch of gaming companies, and that was like amazing. And then once the guy that sat next to me in the office at Starkware was the guy that rewrote the contracts from Solidity to Cairo for DYDX. And so I got to walk through how DYDX worked. And then I fell in love with perpetual swaps. So then there was a team that was being formed and incubated, which later became Mars through Delphi Labs, which they had created. And I had worked with Delphi through my time at Starkware and gotten to know the team pretty well. I had met Tom. I forget what country I met him in. Maybe it was in New York. Maybe it was in Florida. Maybe it was in Europe. But I met Tom. And, when we got to know each other, I joined the Lao, which was a DAO-based investment firm, and then Flamingo, which became the largest investors in the crypto space and NFTs. And then, Delphi was putting together this like all-star team of suites of products on Terra, which I was like totally down the rabbit hole for Terra. And so I got an opportunity to kind of jump ship at Starkware and to join one of these teams. And so that ended up becoming Levana. And Levana is perpetual swaps. Today, it is the version 2 of Levana, which survived the Terra crash. It's called a well-funded perpetual swap, which means that it is fully collateralized. So it can't go insolvent, even with strong market movements. And if you're not familiar with insolvency, like the reason that we're sitting at a $16,000 Bitcoin is basically because of insolvency, because of all this like cooking the books of like that I use debt that I have from another platform in order to collateralize a loan that I get from another platform. And then people can't repay back their loans. So everything's under collateralized, and then everything crashes. And then we're in the situation that we're in with all this downward pressure. So the idea of having a fully collateralized leverage platform is incredibly pertinent to the space today. I should also mention that I got to know Doe. Doe is a hurricane. I have the utmost respect for him. I do not believe that he is a scammer. I think that he's brilliant, and I was invited to work with him on revamping UST from being fully algorithmic to being semi-backed, under collateralized. And so that project was called LFG. So I worked with, I was on there on the advisory board with about six other people, five other people in Doe, and then that was, our goal was to essentially to turn UST like into a form of like a MakerDAO, or really like a Frax, not a MakerDAO. And I also, I got to work with Sam, and Sam is also brilliant from Frax. And I know the Rye team, and the fee and whatever. There's it's a whole rabbit hole of struggle to of stablecoin. But if you don't build, like, if we just pause for a second, if you don't have a real decentralized stablecoin, then you just reinvented what did we really do in terms of censorship resistance? Like, that's a whole other conversation, and we can have that or not have that. Then Terra crashed, but before Terra crashed, I'm a storyteller and like a big sci-fi geek, and very passionate about NFTs. And I wrote a story for Levana, which was about dragons on Mars, and that ended up taking up a life of its own. And we did at Levana the largest NFT mint. We built like 8 different mini games, and we had a huge community. And recently, just because of I told you I hadn't, like, this week was rough. I hadn't slept in like 3 days straight, and we basically were put in the situation where just Levana doesn't have funding to support building GameFi while at the same time building Perps. And Perps is a bear market product and can potentially keep the organization afloat. And so the tough call was made to wind down, or to stop effort on the GameFi, which really broke my heart. In the story of Levana, the main character's name is Zahava, which is my daughter's name. And if you ever come to Jerusalem, you can come see my house, and you'll see how it's just decked out in purple dragons at this point. From the influence, like this whole GameFi approach and kind of like combining NFTs and DeFi has been really like a life's work, and something I've been very passionate about. But it's something that's going to just have to take the back burner, as part of like bear market blues. But I'm optimistic that there will be greener pastures moving forward. But you're kind of catching me at somewhat of an emotional point, and kind of like a hard pivot as to what we're doing. But we've given over the gaming assets to the community, and I'm hopeful that the community will be able to accomplish what I wasn't able to accomplish, or what the team wasn't able to accomplish. So that's kind of my background and Levana's background, and what we're doing. So happy to unpack that and to talk about whatever it is that you'd like to talk about.
What I love the most is that you beat my record. It took me 3 years to read the Bitcoin white paper since I started using it. Since I first, 2011, it was exactly as well. I was leaving Israel to Russia, and I was in Ben Gurion in the airport, and I had a call from a friend who told me about it. And then we did get into mining, but I did not bother to read the white paper until 2013. But and I thought I had the record, but you took it to 2016. Well done.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few things. What, out of curiosity, considering, I'll be honest with you, I love listening to people's stories, especially in blockchain, and saying, "Oh, I was there too. Oh, we probably met before. Oh, we probably met before there and there and there." Out of curiosity, you said you had a fund and you were looking at Ethereum. What was your worst buy?
My worst buy. Ooh. Well, I lost the most money on Luna.
No, 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 no. Worst buy. Worst buy. Like something really terrible. Like something like, oh my god, I don't want to talk about that. I didn't touch that.
Ooh, okay. XRP.
XRP.
Yeah, XRP.
It's not that bad. I've done worse than that. Come on.
Well, I mean, look, I bought XRP with strong conviction.
Okay, that's better. That's better. I like that. Yeah, we did lose a lot of money on UST, but it's funny. I've had quite several recordings this week, and that the conversation of UST keeps on coming up more in the bear market. And I keep on saying that actually, I think the Doc 1 unknowingly did everyone a favor. And people are like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, for example, we had, I don't know why, but so it happened, we had all of the project's money, a lot more than 5 or 6 years worth of money in UST. And having all that gone 2 or 3 months before the bull market is over or before the bear market really starts did get us kicking live 3 months before. So we were working already. And, we've already been working half a year now since it happened. So it's all good.
There's always, sometimes you just have to. There's a phrase in Hebrew, "Gamze Latova," like
It's also good.
yeah, it's not, everything has a good side to it.
Yeah, for sure. There's actually a lot of things I want to talk to you about, but I guess I'm gonna try and pick at the more the DeFi kind of and then gaming kind of style. First question first. You said you were interested in stable coins and you were involved in several in one way or another. You spoke to several developers, a lot of developers out there by the sound of it, and a lot of founders. First question, why are we pegging stable coins to fiat money? And is it something we should be doing? And what is the future going to look like for stablecoins? Are we still going to be pegging them to USD and euro, or we should change that in your opinion? And if yes, to when?
It is a good question. I think that there is potential for a Bitcoin standard. I think that what we would see is a hyperinflation. Like, it's actually interesting. And I see this as a firsthand experience that the first Israelis that I ever met, which was in Baltimore, where I was raised, had left Israel because of the collapse of the economy in the 80s, around the first, and maybe it was the end of it. But for those that don't know, the shekel is called the new shekel. And actually, the economy, there was hyperinflation twice in Israel. They launched the country with the lira, that hyperinflated. Then they had the shekel, that hyperinflated. And today there's the new shekel. So the first, the narrative that I had about hyperinflation, like actually meeting somebody that went through hyperinflation, was, talking to Israelis in Baltimore that left the country because essentially you wake up one day and all the money in your bank account is worth nothing. The hyperinflation is like, it's a giant theft. It's where the government essentially just steals money from the people. And then when I moved to Israel and they had, the new shekel was rather young, nothing large was priced in the new shekel because there wasn't faith in it. So if you were to rent an apartment, it was priced in dollars. If you were to buy a car, it was priced in dollars. If you were to, like a long hotel stay, anything that was like significant amount of cash, it was always priced in dollars. And then as the economy improved and kind of like the high tech scene in Israel really took off, and you had economic stability, you had waves of peace and prosperity. So then we saw a mind shift of the population that it became less reliant on pricing things in dollars and more reliant on pricing things in shekels. Now, that was a very interesting psychological, economic, echio-psychological, I'm not sure if that's a term, change to watch and to actually see it as going from a 19-year-old to a 40-year-old, to watch that change happen. So that's kind of what I see is the path of a Bitcoin standard and a hyper Bitcoinization. I mean, it could be that it's Bitcoin, it could be that it's something else, but I do see that there's a path where we go from defining assets in what is felt like just economically as secure because of volatility index and because of reflexive nature, because of Lindy effect, because of multiple mass psychosis psychological aspects, that over time, as the volatility of another storage of value, the volatility of a storage of value as it drops down, so then it becomes easier to use as a means of exchange and unit of account. And I think that that's the transition that will have to happen. And again, we can get into proof of stake, we can get into proof of work, we can talk about the deflationary aspect of Ethereum, we can talk about miner extracted value of Ethereum, or the OFAC compliance and what that means, and America having a jurisdiction over validation, and Coinbase's headquarters in San Francisco, wherever they're, and all of that impact and stuff. So I don't have a crystal ball as to what it looks like, but I do know that every empire falls. Rome wasn't built in a day. Rome didn't fall in a day. The Ottomans fell. I literally, when I look out my window, I see the remains of multiple fallen empires that lasted much longer and had much more influence than the United States. And so I know that if it's not during our lifetime, maybe not during our children's lifetime, maybe it's during our grandchildren's lifetime, but at some point, America will fall. And I'm not wishing that on anybody because I think it's going to cause lots of pain. I think it's just the nature. A nation, it's an organic living thing, and no organic living thing lasts forever. Everything is born, grows, matures, becomes, fat and lazy and dies. And so at some point, we're going to see the collapse of America, and it probably will, be like Texas, secedes, California secedes, and then other states. I don't know what the collapse of America looks like, but I think that it will be largely driven by economic collapse. And nobody would have believed this 4 years ago. But when you see that over the course of COVID, just first of all, the lack of, let's call it faith in our supervisors and faith in, trust of the what they tell us, and then the willy-nilly printing of 40% of the volume of US dollars, and then having that on the back of the of 2008's economic collapse, we're seeing the cracks in the walls already. And I believe that there will be an opportunity, and it's probably not going to come from China, and it's for sure not coming from Europe. So there's an opportunity for there to be a new sovereign global currency. And then I think we'll have that same shift that I firsthand experienced in Israel of things going price from the dollar to price to the shekel. We'll see that on a global scale as things will be preferred to be priced in a new asset. And it's something that just naturally happens. But until then, we need stablecoins.
We can create stable coins today by not pegging them to, I mean, it's not very hard to, I mean, we experimented with the first and created a stable coin, which was called gold-backed Golos. And it was backed by a token, but the stability was to 1 milligram of gold. So like, I mean, we don't have to wait till America falls down, right?
Okay, but now you're just making it hard to have it as a unit of account. So do I really want to convert? Like, you're right, we could make it to the peso, we could make it to whatever, but it's like most things in the world are priced in dollars. And so if you're going to make a synthetic, stable currency, make it stable to the thing that most things are priced in.
What would you say helps the general public? And I say it with a lot of respect right now. I don't mean it in a bad way. It is just what people call mass adoption. In my opinion, mass adoption happened a long time ago with NFTs. But what helps everybody to start trusting money? You mentioned several times that trust is a very big thing for money. Is that the trade, the fact that a lot of things are being traded or services being sold, or I don't know, great developers, great founders, great supervisors? What's in your opinion helping people to trust money more?
Well, you asked one question and then you followed up with a different question.
I'm Israeli as well, so come on.
Exactly. So you first asked about like what causes mass adoption, and then you asked, what causes trust of money. So I can address those as two different questions. So what causes mass adoption is drastic increase to UX, to user experience, with an emphasis on onboarding. And then and that's a prerequisite. And then the use case of mass adoption is through lifestyle, brands, and entertainment. Because most people don't feel a pain when it comes to their financial ecosystem. We're very happy with Apple Pay. If you're not using Apple Pay at this point, you're a chump. It's amazing. And, credit cards are already digital currency, and you don't even have to swipe anymore. You just kind of I like just hold my phone up and it just works. And so we've got to have a wallet that just comes in our phone automatically. And we don't even need to set it up. We don't need to download an app. It's just there. And then there has to be mass adoption through the existing media outlets that we already use. That could be your annual subscription of Netflix is an NFT. I don't know. Like I don't know how to say this. Gucci Davana, your Versace, handbag comes with an NFT certificate. Like the Beanie Baby that you get. We're already seeing the floodgates open in terms of use cases and understanding around NFTs. There's just this nasty association with, like, there's the whole woke culture apparently took an anti-NFT approach. But I think in the next cycle, we'll be smart enough to go against that. And you have to, usually to battle woke, you have to be more woke than them. It's like it's a pissing contest almost. So we've got to be super eco-friendly, super inclusive, yada, yada, all that great stuff. And then NFTs as a lifestyle product, and then NFTs as club membership. Because really, what an NFT, like the most successful case of an NFT, like Bored Apes and Punks and stuff, it's a club membership. And we see that like Levana, it's very much a club membership. The Wrecked Gang, it's a club membership. All this Joe is showing that people want to be part of a club and they want to to experience camaraderie. And it's also like for males in your adult life, it's very hard to make friends. Like you need a sports team that you're surrounded, that like you both support. And so NFTs I'm not into sports, but I feel a lot of like similarities when I own an NFT that somebody else owns. And it at least, I suspect it's a similar feeling as if it's like the same sports team, like if we liked the same sports team and we could talk about that and like root for the same sports team, or at least dunk on the same sports team that we don't like. So number one is we've got to improve UX, especially around onboarding. Number two is we've got to get the haters on board to love NFTs and brands to embrace it, and then it to be integrated as utility NFTs through gaming and entertainment. And now everybody's got a crypto wallet on their phone. And then it's just natural that I will be able to just send you stable coins through cryptocurrency the same way that I use the Cash App to send you things. And then we'll also be able to actually use it at point of sale. And essentially it'll be invisible. Like crypto will succeed when the people that use it don't know that they're using crypto. The same way that cloud computing became the winner and like World Wide Web became the winner when people didn't even know that they were using it. Like my mom doesn't realize that she's using World Wide Web when she watches Netflix. She just is using it. And she doesn't care what chain that she's on, whether it's like the servers are on Azure or on Google Cloud Compute or on AWS. Like that doesn't mean anything to her. She just wants to watch The Good Place or another season of The Office. So I think that's where adoption will come from. And that's what it's going to look like.
I remember one book that made an impression on me. It is I'm also a sci-fi geek a little bit, and it is a Russian sci-fi author, Sergei Lukyanenko. I don't remember the book specifically; it's many years ago. But one little passage made an impression on me. From what you say, I did remember it now, and that's going to be the question from that passage. But I have to say that first. In the book, there was it's like a set in a distant future, and one of the characters who is being described is living in the city, and it's in the future. Humans don't have nails, hair, or teeth. Well, they do, but they're not real, so not to waste time and all the money on that. So
just to pause you there, I've thought about that. It's like, why don't we just all get dentures?
yes,
Like
yes.
it's such a I hate going to the dentist. Like every time I go to the dentist, I'm like, there's got to be something better than this.
I've been putting that off for so long. Like I need to know do it again now, and I've no. Don't get me started there. But anyways, there is this belief that there's only one city left on Earth, and that the civilization was destroyed some thousands of years ago, whatever, hundreds of years ago. And there's like this dome around the city, and blah blah blah. Long story short, this guy. Everything is in the city is seamless. It's like you described. It's very important. Everything, like they don't know how things happen. And then long story short, he manages to realize that it's not the only city that's left. He manages to get out, and the world is not destroyed. There is actually like a whole country village kind of out there, and he manages to find some small village or something like that where when he's talking to people, and here is the question, sorry for the length, they talk about a light bulb, and then the light bulb stops working, and they talk about how it's working. And his first reaction is, well, what the fuck do I know? It's a light bulb. But then, it's interesting because they get into this whole point and show you from the other side that the other guy from the village, he fixes the light. And what they kind of tried to show, and then later on with the discussion, I'm not going to get into it, but the point was that and I agree with you, but I will be devil's advocate here because I agree in some extent, I have to be honest. If everything will be seamless, well, I hate that word, and we already have tracking devices in our pockets. And if one company like Google, I hope they're not listening to this, installing phones, apps on everything now, wallets on every phone, and essentially what we're going to have is people not back to why crypto was created. No, like, I mean, the whole movement was partially created on philosophy, and philosophy and blockchain is technology, separate things. But if that will happen like that, complete understanding of what's going on, we don't know what we're using, we don't know what we're doing. Aren't we just going to go back to square zero, where why we created crypto was in order for us to be more responsible for what we do, and to understand the monetary system better, and to be free from our supervisors, so to speak.
You make an interesting point, but I'm going to partially disagree, because I think at the end of the day, most people want to be supervised. Let's look at web browsers. Okay, we'll take it from that point. With a web browser, it comes on your phone and it's got lots of surveillance on it. But what it does is it enables access to the World Wide Web, which is permissionless, and gives access to everybody to be able to plug in. And then and because of its ubiquitousness, it's powerful. And because it's open source and permissionless, it allows for anybody that wants to unplug from the surveillance part of it to get something like Brave or DuckDuckGo or some other type, to connect through Tor or through use a VPN, in order to be able to access this permissionless network without the surveillance that comes by default on your phone. And I think that that's going to be the same path that we'll have with crypto. I think the path starts where most people don't own their own keys, but the fact that you can own your own keys makes all the difference. They're going to start with a custodial or even semi-custodial using multi-point computational technology, like what Zengo is using, and other services like Argent is using, where you have key recovery without managing a seed phrase, because seed phrases suck. So I think that you'll end up with a point where it starts as a very Web 2 experience for everyone, but then those who choose to break out of it have the option to. And that's what makes all the difference. Today, when I use PayPal, there's no option for me to have self-sovereign or self-custodial PayPal. And that's where we need to get to.
I see your point here. I know also that you're short on time. So I'm going to get to the blitz, because I call it blitz, but I know it takes 5 minutes and I know you have 5 minutes. So there's going to be 3 questions. Give me top 3 blockchain projects that you're curious in terms of what they are working on right now.
Okay, I'll answer that. I actually have a list.
Well done. Prepared.
I didn't know that you were going to ask.
Be woke. Be woke. Be woke.
Yeah.
I like it.
So what am I interested in? Liquidity with LQTY.
I was going to talk to you about that, but yeah, okay. Liquidity. What else?
Okay, so interested in that. Also, let's say, I'm very interested in Kujira and Kuji. I think it's a great team, and it just does, it's just the ability that they have to deliver so quickly. I've just never seen anything like it. So I think that that's interesting. And then let's see another one that's interesting.
Could be 2. It can be 2. Doesn't have to be 3. Check out chicken bonds on Liquidity when you're going to search it. So, second question, then Jonathan, 2 things that motivate you in your daily life and keep you to help build, well, not just Levana, but whatever it is out there that strikes you day by day.
So things that motivate me. I believe that there's an opportunity for us working in the cryptocurrency world to prevent a seemingly inevitable dystopic future where it is impossible for economic wealth to be acquired by those that are not currently in power. And the main attack vector that the people that control economic wealth today is centered around being able to create a digital currency that has no mechanism of storage. Because if you can't store wealth, then you can't acquire. What is money? In a nutshell, money is being able to store work, because you can deploy that work. The amount of labor that it takes to farm a field, there's no way to store that, and then to store it during the summer so that way I can have it during the winter. And so we use money as a derivative product to store work. And then we value different types of labor, sometimes incorrectly, by the amount of money that can be acquired in a certain geography for that labor. Now, if you could create a money that was impossible to save, or was only possible for some people to save, because, and we're seeing this in China, like money that if you don't spend it by the end of the month, it just gets pulled from your bank account, or money that can only be used at the grocery store but can't be used for buying liquor, or whatever it is. So if the government can control money, then they can essentially control labor. They can control what labor can be stored and what labor can't be stored. And when you can control how labor happens and what the compensation of labor is, that is mass slavery. So we're on a path, just the default path of society and humanity is for the current administrations to be able to enact a form of mass slavery on our children and grandchildren. And we, working in the cryptocurrency industry, are the only people that have an opportunity to be able to build the technology today to be able to prevent that slavery from happening. And so that's one of the major things that makes me passionate about staying within this industry.
Last one person to follow. Doesn't have to be from crypto. Could be a book, could be a writer, a technologist, a magician, anyone. One person to follow.
Well, I'm going to say Elon Musk, but I will, I will say that, somebody that you probably are not following that you should be following is Tyler Reynolds. He is a big inspiration. He's so on point. And also Jason Cho is also just so on point. Like everything that they say, I just want to retweet. Both great guys.
Jonathan, I know you have to run, so I'm going to wrap it up and let you at least have a glass of water between your next call. So thank you very, very much for joining. We must find a time to retake it, but we will for sure. Other than that, thank you very much for joining and finding the time to on.
Thank you so much. It was great, and I look forward to seeing you again in person.
Bye.
Bye.
This content was created by the Citizen Cosmos Validator. If you enjoyed it, please support us by delegating to Citizen Cosmos and help us to create more educational content.